Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Resilient Riches. Today, we're going to change your mindset. It's going to be a little different than our normal podcasts that are more educational, that are more inspirational, that talk about resilient stories. But we're actually going to take action items by the end of today to change your mindset for the better so you can be more successful, you can be more comfortable, and you have more confidence in your personal, your business, your professional, and your spiritual life. And so we thought of no one better but to rein everybody in from Canada down to the US so we get some cross-border vibes going on. It's -8 today with Dave Conway coming in, but we're really appreciative. We're not sure if it's Celsius or Fahrenheit. It is a huge difference, but we're still trying to get through that point. But Dave Conway, we're really excited for you.
Don't forget.
Dad, we can't hear you. You're killing us here, Dad. You're interrupting too much as he starts interrupting. But Dave, we're excited to have you on and appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks so much, fellas. Excited to be here. And to clarify, it is -8 Celsius this morning. Not anymore. You know, we swing up about 15 degrees when the sun comes out, which is coming up -8. I have no idea what Fahrenheit is. You'll have to Google it.
So, Dave, you give us a little clarity about what you do, how you're able to help people.
Yeah. So I work in the mindset space, which is a really interesting space because that's kind of become fairly common. The word itself is very well known, the word mindset. I think we've all heard, your mindset is playing a significant role in your life. But what's a little bit different about some of the ideas that I share is to actually understand what does that mean. And I guess when we look at the word mindset, we want to break down that word into your mind is already set. And that set point is what's producing our results. So if we want to start to change our results, we have to learn how to change that set point.
So break that down a little bit further. If you can go a little deeper, share with us like you would in a normal session.
How did this develop also? I mean, you said you were originally born in Ireland, so not Canadian or US, but from Ireland. And how did that whole thing develop? Like, how'd you come to this whole industry?
Yeah. So my whole life, I always felt like there was something beyond just what people were doing and saying. I guess it's an intuitive thing. I remember the first time I heard of the concept of woman's intuition. I was like, oh, I have one of those. I've got one of those. I was I was born with one of those. It's not just the ladies have it. I have an intuition too. Now I didn't see colors or nothing like that, so I'm not like a gifted person in that sense. But I always knew that there was something beyond what people did and said. And when I was turned 18 years old, my mom brought me to hear a gentleman speak. She said, hey, there's some guy talking at the Travelodge Hotel in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. If you say that 10 times fast, your tongue gets tied in a knot for forever. And, that man, what's that?
It doesn't even take 10 times.
Yeah, 5 times for certain people. And Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and I went down. My mom brought me. I don't know if she forced me to go. I don't remember that point, or if I willingly went. Not too sure. I was an 18-year-old punk. And I heard a gentleman speak that night for 2 hours. And the honest to God truth was that I'd never heard anybody speak like that in my life. All my teachers, I used to play soccer at the time, all my coaches, any adult, which is our primary source of information, especially back then. We didn't have phones and Google like we do today. And I'm only 40, so that'll show you how much the world's changed. Our source of information and our source of guidance was our peers, or was the adults, was the parents. And this man was sharing ideas that I'd never heard before. And he was sharing them in a way that I'd also never heard before. And it made sense. And that gentleman's name was Bob Proctor. And for those that aren't familiar with Bob Proctor, I consider him the original gangsta of the law of attraction, the OG of personal development. I truly do believe he's one of the greatest speakers to ever touch down on earth in the last 100 years. But a lot of the ideas that he shared, people don't fully grasp. And he talked about the mind, and he talked about awareness, and he talked about how change starts on the inside. And as he started to talk, I began to become more and more intrigued. Now, unfortunately, for the next 15 years, I was unable to produce very much with the information that I had learned. And I don't think I'm alone in that camp. I think there's a lot of people, there's probably a lot of people listening on your podcast today, a lot of people that have probably been trying for some period of time but have been unable to actually produce the results that have been promised or produce the results that they desire. And what we need to understand is that there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So as we start to learn how to change our thinking, change our conditioning, change our paradigm, you're going to find that your world can then therefore start to change.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's this whole concept of, and I was taught at like a younger age, was that no matter what happens in the outside life, in whatever happens to you, it's not the outside world's fault. It's actually your fault. So if something were to happen that you, let's say, lost a sale, or you didn't close this piece of business or something like that, it's not actually that person's fault, the person that you were selling. And it's easy to blame that person, but it's really your fault. The perception, your sale, your approach, your conversation, your tonality, all that's actually something else. And you could change the mindset and it will change your life. I find also a big thing that's very popular right now is manifesting, where you can put something down and your mindset actually will visualize something and you'll actually work towards that. So where are you seeing these newer concepts in mindset changing, and how is that developing the people that you speak with every day?
Yeah.
Well, just to jump in for a second, not to interrupt, but to interrupt. The same idea is with like, I used to listen to a lot of these, like, these shows about women that call in, or men that call in and can't find a spouse. A lot of it, they say you have these love antenna, they used to call them. I think, some of the popular Dr. Joy Brown, I used to listen to those things. They were very entertaining, interesting. She says you have these love antenna, and like the woman that gets married and gets divorced time and time again. She's looking for that because she's looking for that type of person. She has to change her mindset. Exactly what you're saying, and maybe what you're saying also, to visualize what it is you're looking for, what you deserve is more than that, and what you have. And I mean, and certainly in the Jewish religion, we believe that wholeheartedly.
When it comes to sort of new information, I guess, my wife always makes fun of me because I don't really read books that aren't at least 100 years old. I think a lot of the new forms of personal development are shrouded in a lot of ignorance, a lot of information missing. And I think when we start to understand that, we're a spiritual being, we have an intellect or a mind, and we live in a physical body. So we're a universal or spiritual being. We have an intellect and we live in a body, right? Your body is on the periodic table, but your mind is not on the periodic table. So there's a part of you that isn't in the physical world. And this is what causes such mass confusion for us as people. We don't know the relationship between the non-physical and the physical. And religions try to teach this. On the mental plane, they're at least trying to teach the spiritual stuff into the physical world. But then you have your psychologists that are just dealing purely with the mental world. So when it comes to new information, I don't know if there's much new information. I think that there's a different perspective of original truths that might help a person in a certain place in their life. But as we start to get back to like the root idea that we are here to grow, we are here to serve, and as we start to take control of our own thinking, we can start to direct our life. Because at the end of the day, you're not a body. You live in a body. You're not your body. You are a spiritual being with a mind. And as you learn how to direct that, you can start to make those changes that you desire.
So how does somebody learn to direct that? Let's dig down a little bit and give some more action items.
Yeah. So the first thing that for me, back in 2017, I was struggling pretty bad. I was struggling for about 2 years prior to that. Very unfulfilled. Had actually become a fairly angry person. If you've been trying to create success, this word I heard when I was 18 from Bob. I think it was more like a curse when I heard it, because now I went off trying to create success for the next 15 years, was unable to do it. So you become a pretty frustrated guy. And when I went down to Los Angeles, I thought to myself, man, I wonder if Bob Proctor will doing his thing. So I got a ticket to a thing called the Paradigm Shift, and I went down, and that was the most painful weekend of my entire life. And there's this one exercise that opened up my imagination. most of our imaginations are shackled. I always make the joke that I took my imagination off its leash for 5 minutes and I wound up here talking to you. What he got me to do at the top of a piece of paper, and the audience can do this if they like, just take a piece of paper and at the top of the paper write, what do I really want? Like, what do I really want? Financially, personally, spiritually, mentally, relationships. How do I really want to live? And as I started to ask myself that question, a floodgate started to open. And I was just writing and writing and writing and writing. In under 3 years, every single thing that I wrote on that paper that day was a part of my life. Earl Nightingale said it best. He said, you are now and you will become what you think about. Now, I've asked tens of thousands of people that question. Who here believes that they become what they think about? And almost everybody says, I do. But the wild thing is, I haven't actually met one person in the general public that actually understands that statement. So you are now and you will become what you think about. So my life today is just the culmination of my past thoughts and feelings. And if I want tomorrow to be different, I better get busy changing my thoughts and feelings today. However, you need a reason to make those changes. And that's where the idea of a goal comes in. See, the purpose of a goal is not to get. The purpose of a goal is to grow. Grow in your awareness of how incredible you really are. Because a lot of people tell you once they achieve the goal, they're left thinking, "Hey, what the hell? Like, I don't feel anything."
Everything you're saying is actually what we incorporate in our business. You see, some of my letters after my name is BFA, which is Behavioral Financial Advisor. So we are all about putting together what people's goals are. We have a little card game that we play, and exactly for that reason, we were asking them what it is that you want in the financial realm. We're not going on to the spiritual realm. We're not trying to fix family relationships, even though your ear sometimes tries. But
sometimes you turn to a counselor.
Yeah, we don't get that, but that's what we try to do on the financial side. Also, how do you see yourself? You want to be, but we do it. Also, we drill down. You want to retire at 50? What's it going to take? Here we have our software. Here we have our processes that we're going to put in place to help you achieve those goals, and we're going to help you along the way as well. So it sounds like we're on that financial side.
Yeah, it's also. I find it also there's this path that people want to go on. It's like, oh, I want to retire at 50. Well, what does that actually look like? And how do we, like, what do you have to do today to accomplish that in the future? And what mindset do you have to switch? Are you going out to restaurants all the time? And it's small little things, but you have to put yourself in a great mindset in order to accomplish those financial, and it's not really so much retire. It's much more be financially free at a certain number, meaning that you work, but you don't have to work for the money. It's a very different kind of concept. And I find people that when they have somebody good and real that gets it and actually can live in that life that me and my father, thankfully, have both achieved, it's really amazing when you can actually help people along the way. Like we have people saying to us all the time, like, oh my God, like just just the coaching that you do and the comfort we have with money now has changed the way that we think about everything because we took off that huge stressor off their minds. So bearing down into money, how are you talking to your clients about the finances?
Yeah. So when it comes to financial goals, I look at it through 3 different kinds of goals. So the way that I go about goal setting, not as common as other forms of it. So when I look at goals, there's 3 kinds of goals. The first kind of goal is a sustaining goal. So it's like I earn $100,000 a year right now. I'm enjoying my lifestyle. I've accepted certain forms of restriction to sustain this lifestyle. So my goal is just to keep repeating this income, $100,000. That is what I would call like an A-type or a sustaining goal. Then when people move on, they'll move on to what I call B-type or additional goals. An additional goal is where they say, okay, I earn $100,000 a year right now. Man, if I could get this income up to $110,000 a year, I could squirrel that away. I could do this, I could do that. And then in 30 years, if I do the math on it, I can retire or whatever the objective is there. Or maybe a person's like, you know what, we really loved that trip we took last year, 2 weeks to the Bahamas. Wouldn't it be something special, honey, if we could go for 3 weeks this year? Oh my God. Oh, that would be amazing. And that would be another form of goal. The goal setting that I deal with is multiplication goals. So that is where a person would entertain the idea of turning their annual income into their monthly income to have exponential growth. And when I speak of that, I'm talking about increasing an individual's income. And in the book, like I go back and I've been doing a lot of research on this because I try and prove my own points, and not just in my own experiences, but through other sources. When I look at this form of goal setting as a multiplication goal, I'll stop in with the Bible, and if we go into Genesis, it's going to say, "Go forth and multiply," right in Genesis. If you are into the New Testament, you would hear the parable of the talents, where a master gave 3 of his servants each 1 talent, and the one went away and buried the talent, right? The investment, the coin, let's say, buried the talent. The other one went away and doubled his talent. He was given 2 and he came back with 4, and then the other one was given 5 and came back with 10. And when they all returned, when the master returned a year later, let's say, when he returned, the one that buried the talent, he took it, scorned him, and then gave it to the one that earned the most. So we're literally told to multiply. We've been told biblically to multiply, and I like to set my goals in multiplication. If I look at science, if I look at the natural world, the universal world, the world is, and the universe is constantly multiplying. It doesn't just go 1 + 1. If you put an acorn in the ground, that acorn will not just give you an oak tree, it's actually going to give you 10,000 more acorns. An average healthy male at any point has over 170 million sperms in his reproductive organs. When a female baby is born, she can have anywhere from 2 to 4 million eggs. Now, she starts to drop them by 10,000, roughly 10,000 eggs per month as she progresses, but that's how much we're born with. When you put a seed, a wheat seed, into the ground, you're going to get 5 more husks and over 120 more seeds. Everything in nature is multiplying. Everything. So what if we started to set our goals that were in harmony with these ideals? And that's what I specialize in. Is this form of goal setting for everybody? No.
So Dave, I just want to make sure that we stay on. I love the concept. I'm understanding the concept, but can you give us examples? Can you give us, like, let's say you were to coach my dad, because I like using him as the practice dummy. That's Ryan Weiss. My dad did not love that conversation, but if you were to approach my dad, what would be that concept, the multiplication concept, and how would you use that? Like, what is a form of goal? What does that mean?
Right. So what I would start with is I would ask him, like, how much money do you earn on average a year? And let's say he said 100 grand a year, 200. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Canadian or US?
Okay. So, and he doesn't need to divulge anything, but we can make up the numbers. So how much money on average would you earn a year, Dave?
So let's say 100. Let's use that number.
Yeah, perfect. Then I would ask him, are you open to the idea of earning 100 a month?
100,000 a month?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Right?
I'm open to it. I just don't know if I want to do the work for it.
Right. So then we'd have to unhook how we get our money too, which is interesting, right? What would happen how would your lifestyle change if you're earning 100 a month?
My lifestyle particularly, I mean, I would just, it sounds like I'd be like working all the time.
Mm-hmm. And what is if you didn't have to work all the time? Because we all only get 24 hours in a day.
What do you mean? I mean, I would, like 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever. Sometimes I had a late night last night, but, Sundays usually are off. But if I'm trying to make 100,000 a day, I would
Or a
not
month,
take any off. What's that?
or a
100
month,
a month.
100. Yeah,
A
100
100
a
a
month.
month.
Right. Like
Yeah.
have a 30-day year, turn your annual income into your monthly income.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So then, I would be probably a lot more involved.
Yeah. But what would happen to your lifestyle? You think it would be a negative on your lifestyle?
Right now, no, it probably wouldn't change at all.
Would you donate more?
Probably, maybe. I'm
Yeah.
not that. I'm not so generous. I'm pretty. Stingy.
Pretty miserly.
I
I'm
can
pretty
testify to
miserly.
that.
All right.
I don't know if I would. I don't know if that would change. Because the problem is when you have a lot of money, and this is an area that we get concerned. It's never really enough, right? You're always afraid because sometimes it can be so easy to lose. People get nervous about it. So sometimes it could never be enough. So, it doesn't mean that if you have more money, you're going to be more charitable, because it just might make you feel like more pressure. Like, how am I going to keep it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And people can feel pressured. What's that?
I guess that's not the answer you were looking for.
I'm not looking for any answer.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just looking for you to share how you feel. So does the idea of setting that kind of goal interest you? The answer would be,
Right.
I'm assuming no.
Well, I mean, look at, I don't know if I would go from what I'm doing from 100 a year to 100 a month, but maybe, maybe somewhere in between. Doesn't need to necessarily be such a drastic change. But if I was making 100, that probably wouldn't be enough for the lifestyle that I want and I'm having right now. So, perhaps, maybe I would need to double it, maybe make it 200 a year or 300 a year. Doesn't mean I need to make it 1.2 a year.
Right.
My kids are out of the house. I don't have the expenses that I used to have.
Right. So then you're not interested in the 100 a month then?
I don't think 100 a month. No,
Yeah.
that's too much.
So then that would be the end of that conversation if a person wasn't interested in it. So if he was interested in a double.
I might be interested to double or triple what I'm doing. It doesn't mean that.
What about a triple?
Yeah, maybe triple I would be interested in. If I was making 100 a month, I could go to 300. That would give me some more flexibility.
So take your income. So let's just use the 100 grand a year. So take your income from 100 grand a year to 300 grand a year. Does that idea interest you?
That could interest me. Yeah, that could be interesting to me.
Okay, beautiful. And then are you interested in seeing if you can do it within the next 12 months?
Yeah, I could. Sure.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much time I have left, so I better get moving.
What's that?
I don't know how much time I have left, so I better, if I'm going to do it,
you better hustle, man.
I better hurry up and get it done.
So then that would be a multiplication goal. So to find that common ground for that person. Now, when I in 2017, I was a carpenter earning $5,000 a month, and I wrote down on that piece of paper that I was doing the work I'm doing today, earning 100 a month, so 20x of my income. Within 1 year, my income went from $5,000 a month to $65,000 a month. Within 31 months of setting that goal, my income went from the $5,000 as a carpenter to over $100,000 a month within 31 months, and it never went back. So for some of us, a lot of our goals are born through the intellect. And if we don't allow the mind to go to a certain place, and we all have reasons why we live the way we live. So these kinds of goals are designed to challenge a person. They're designed to make us question ourselves. They're designed to start to open up another part of ourself that maybe we're not experiencing or expressing.
So will you now get into the details of that with me? Let's say you'll see how am I gonna triple or quadruple my income? How am I gonna do that? I mean, I don't, what am I gonna do? I don't know. I'm a carpenter. What am I gonna do to make more money? I don't know.
Yeah,
you gonna help with that?
Yeah. So let's say you. So have we set on the goal 300 grand a year?
Yeah, that's the goal. Yes.
Okay, so that's our goal. If you and I work together, we're going 300 grand. Okay. The first thing I would get you to do, Dave, is I would get you to write out, what does my life look like when I'm earning 300 grand a year? After you write that out, then I would get you to ask yourself, who is the man that has taken himself to 300 grand a year? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he dress? How does he act? What kind of business does he do? What's the results of his clients? What's the results of his team? What's his attitude of mind? Who is he? And as you start to establish that, you have to continuously pump that guy into your consciousness. And as you do that, you're going to find that you start catching the 100 grand version of yourself, and then you can start to change it into the 300 grand version of yourself. And I think it was Yar that said this in the beginning. He said, we're responsible. So if you're on a sales call, it's like when you look at it, at the end, you're like, I'm responsible for that. Or I think you used the word, I'm to blame for that. It is us as the common denominator of the whole show. So as we start to change the common denominator, we can start to change the outside.
So the question then turns into, okay, and as my dad was saying, well, let's say our business is the coaching to change businesses, because a carpenter, it's very, very hard for a carpenter to make a lot more money. Can you
not if you're the owner of Restoration Hardware?
That's true, no question. So you're saying stay in what you're doing, but maximize it to the maximum of its potential.
Maybe. So some of us, a career change will occur. So I don't want my story to be exclusive, because I've helped a lot of people that have not had that change. I hope that someone's found a labor of love and has found a portion of society that they desire to serve in a certain way. But some of us will have to make that change. Some of us do end up changing careers, like I changed career. So if you can start to find out who that version of you is, so build the person that will build your business. So I'm not a business coach. I help a lot of people increase their income substantially, but I'm not a business coach. So I help people build the person that's going to build the business that they desire. And this goes back to what you shared earlier about it is our responsibility to close those deals. It is our responsibility to serve people in a certain way. That is our responsibility. It's no one else's responsibility to do that. But what we're missing is how to actually change ourselves into that person that naturally produces that. So what I help people do, build yourself into the person that builds the business that you desire.
Person that builds the business you desire. I actually like that a lot. And I think something that you did very well that I hope that people listening caught that is, my dad doesn't want taking the $100,000 a year to $100,000 a month, because in our world, we know our path in our world, and there's a lot of work that you have to be required to do to get to that point. But you found a point that was tangible. So it wasn't a 12x, it wasn't a 10x, it wasn't a 5x, it was a 3x. And I thought that was very, very important for people to understand, that even when you are multiplying, you have to multiply in a place that you actually feel comfortable in. I think that's very powerful.
Or you just feel it. So I prefer if he was a little uncomfortable, to be honest, because then I know we're jarring up the system. But he liked the idea. So as salespeople, as service providers, I think we do a great disservice projecting onto our prospects. We do a great disservice thinking that this is the only way. But can we find that stretch goal? Like, we've all heard of a thing called a BHAG. That's all it is. It's just a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. We've been admonished, even in personal development, to dream bigger. The art of dreaming bigger. Set a BHAG. There's who's that guy that wrote the book Principles?
I don't know.
Ray Dalio.
It was a funny thing, because when you started this business, we had a bit of a mentor, boss, Victor. And what's that story you hear that Victor told you, write a check to yourself for $500,000. And the next year, write a check to yourself for $1 million and put it on the wall. And that's now your goal to get. And that's the whole idea, is seeing it and going after it. And that's what you want to accomplish. And I think that's one of your strengths here, is that, you don't let something intimidate you, and you go after what you want to get.
Yeah. No, the hard part, I think, that I've always struggled with, and just to be honest, is there's a lot of moving parts, and I want to also be with my family, and I want to also focus on the business, and I also want this, and I want that, and I also want to work with my dad, and we do this together, and then I like working with our office and different businesses and different ideas. So that's always been my biggest problem, but it's never been it's never been making money. And something that I found that you said a lot, which I liked a lot, was saying it's become easy. Like for my dad and myself, for us, we write a lot of business and it's not really very stressful. Like people are like dying to get to the point that
Yeah.
of business we write. But for us, it's just like, yeah, we do it. Like Dad, if I said to you a certain dollar amount next year that you would want to get, you would be like, yeah, that's not a big deal. But 10 years ago, that's a huge number.
That's right.
Well, that's how it is. You get, when we first started, we would be coming home I would come home at midnight for any kind of business, any chase, any kind of thing, anywhere, anytime, any place. Doesn't make a difference. And then after a while, you start to say, no, we're not going to do that. That's not what we're going to want. That's not the kind of business we want to do anymore. And we redefine ourselves as you get more secure and you get more skillful. I think that's just the way it's been.
Yeah, like I personally love, I've got financial industry and insurance clients. And I personally love working with them, not necessarily because of their mindset and attitude, which actually is better than most. It's actually because of the opportunity itself. And I always say to people, like, if you're in the financial service industry and you're not making $1 million a year, like, you should go look in the mirror, because you can. Like, you really can. I think the financial industry, this financial services industry, insurance industry, produces more millionaires per capita than any other industry. I had this client, no slouch. Her name is Whitney Ham. She's up in Burlington, Ontario, which I think is one of the largest condensed wealth in Canada. And
is that true? More than Toronto? Burlington?
Oakville and Burlington, yeah.
Really? I used to go to university. I went to University of Western Ontario, drive by Burlington on the way to Toronto.
Oh, you saw all the people eating out of their silver spoons when you looked into their window?
I didn't see anything. There was one guy in my residence from Burlington. One guy in my residence from Burlington, I really didn't like him at all. He was a big creep.
Well, yeah. Well, So anyway, she's out of Burlington, and this lady's no slouch. And I think this will be a great story, an illustration. So this lady, on average, taking in $180 a month. Good money. And when I met her, I said to her, well, first off, I can't help you unless you want something. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to go away for a week, really start to think, what do I really want? Like, what if I work with this guy, what do I want him to help me with? So a week later, I got an email from her, and the email was had a few items on it, but one item on there, she said, I want you to help me earn $250,000 in a day, in one night. So what this lady does is she hosts dinners for people that are in a position to invest. So you'd have, say, wealthy people. She hosts these dinners, and then from those dinners, she opens up opportunity to serve, to sell life insurance, to sell whole life, sell all kinds of things like that. So a lot of these sales are bigger deals. And I said, I'll show you how to do it. Within 12 weeks, she earned over $350,000 in a single day. That woman has doubled her income from working, using these ideas. I don't want to say working with me, that would be great. But the ideas that I'm talking about, she's doubled it. She's on average now taking in $400 a month. Now, these are the two things that I got her to do. The first thing I got her to do was I got her to build a clear mental picture in her mind of exactly experiencing what it would be like if she achieved that goal. And then the second thing I got her to do was I got her to go the extra mile, become a more generous person, to start to release not just more energy, but a different quality of energy into her current world. As we start, I don't think we need to become smarter. I think what we do is we want to become more generous, because generosity circulates. And generosity is giving outside of the comfort zone. Most people think generosity is just giving. It's not just giving. That's just giving. Generosity is to give unexpectedly. Unexpected levels of giving is what generosity is. And what that does, it breaks our pattern, and we start to release a different energy into the world.
We agree with that.
We're all for that.
Right. Those are the two things. So one was a clear mental picture, and the second was start to pour differently into. So don't see, we habitually give on a certain level. And what I get people to start to do is start to question, can I give more? Can I release a different energy into people? Can I release different information into people? And you're going to find that as you do that, which takes questioning because it's not habitual, we're all in the same habit nature of giving at the same level.
The first part also is I found interesting because in sports they do that a lot too, right? Like the quarterback will envision in his mind what it will look like to make that Hail Mary pass down the field to the receiver. You know, and he envisions it in his mind and then he does it.
That's right. So I always say this to people too, like if you've got a goal but you don't have a clear mental picture, you're just slowing the production of that goal. So never set a goal without sitting down even for 15, 20 minutes and just writing out some scenario, something that would represent the achievement of that. Because then because we think in pictures, then when you think about the goal, you'll get the image. And it's the repetition of that image that starts to get fixed upon the sub.
That's very deep. So let's close this out. What would be a moment in your life? I think you actually were very open about it right at the beginning. Was that defining moment that really changed your life and changed your mindset to allow yourself to become more successful? I mean, there was a point in your life that allowed you to do that.
So sitting in that room in May of 2017, a question floated into my mind that I guess we call it like divine. I don't know. I know it wasn't me though. And it's a very simple question. And the question would seem so obvious. And this is the question that floated into my head. Who else is living your life but you? And it almost knocked me off my chair. You see, prior to that, I thought that things in the outside world were dictating me. So I used to play a little game called the blame game, and it's a very common game, and everyone that plays it's a loser. Because when we blame someone for our results, and you touched on this, Yar, when we blame someone for our results, we are now in a powerless position. So I need that person to purchase for me to make a sale. I need you to do this so I then can have this. And that's how most people think. It's unconscious, but it's deeply programmed in us. I had to answer the question, well, of course it's me. And then a question came in my mind, who else is producing your life but you? And then again, I had to answer, well, me. And that started the exploration of myself. True, deeper, penetrating thoughts. And I personally do believe that the most powerful form of thought is contemplation. I think it unlocks another side of us that most people go from cradle to the casket and never touch upon.
I agree with that. There's a reason why there is a 1% in this world. There's a reason why there's a 0.1%, and I think they're able to access.
We find the same thing even when we're doing we do our financial processes. People, a lot of times they've never had these thoughts before. You're talking about it on a life aware. We're talking about it just on a financial basis. And we have as I mentioned, a little card game that we do, and people have never done it before. They've never thought in these terms before. And that's why we stand apart. And I think that's a big reason for the success that we've had is just because, we're different and people remember that we're coming at them from a different angle than just trying to be transactional.
In a strange way, you almost hold their destiny in your hands.
Not a strange way. It is. It's a financial destiny.
That's right.
So, Dave, how can people find you? How can people get connected with you? How can people get in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram, Conway Consulting. So I throw content up there, and also come to the website, www.conway.consulting, www.conway.consulting. So you can go to the website or Instagram.
Great, and I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. It's very deep. It's a little different. It's hard to find people who are able to actually do this in real time. A lot of people talking concepts, and we really like to make sure that you as the audience are gaining real actionable items that you can take away into your life and add value into your life. So please, if this helped add value to your life, share this episode to somebody else, follow our page, give us a 5-star review on Spotify, We're at about 1.4 thousand 5-star reviews right now. So we're really working on building a bigger audience. Check us out on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, get in touch with us. And if you ever need financial advisory or life insurance, don't forget to reach out. But we'll see everybody on the next one. Thanks so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed today.
Thank you.